Oh, how was yours? You have a pancake?
I did.
All right, that's plus one. That's good. Actually, really good.
It was really nice.
I mean, one of you guys talked about the recipe for pancakes. Then given to Columbus by the.
Well, I
chef.
was talking about that. It was given to the club back in the early 70s by an executive chef out here at Parsons College. He was a member.
He actually has the Red Barn right behind the Dairy Queen. Here's it.
Oh, okay.
That by there. Anyway.
So, yeah, and the amount of eggs, I couldn't remember the total 5-gallon
Good
buckets that
job,
we
Tom.
did, but it was a lot. So, 8:30 or 8:29 right now. We have Kent Boyum on with us. We have Bruce Hudson is on with us. Jerry Marcellus is signed in with us. So I'll let them in as they come in the door. So, all right. Ready? I think we're close enough. 8:30.
Morning.
Hi.
To the engineer first.
Yep.
Since the big city's name.
Okay, we're 8:30.
We are, okay, we'll call this meeting to order, the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors. Do we have a motion to acknowledge the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Dredge, second by Hamilton. Any discussion?
Aye. Mary Ann Nordyke just joined
Okay.
us.
Morning, Dwayne, what do you have for us?
Good morning. This morning I have the cover sheet for our joint project with Vedic City for reinforced concrete box culvert replacement for letting in January this coming year, hopefully for construction in the 2022 season. And I need from you good folks, your signatures and date on the front cover. Pass that around and sign it as we go through here. The crews have been busy, just road maintenance, doing some mowing, placing gravel in some of the wet spots on some of the roads that we found needed additional rock after our midsummer rocking. This week, we've got a rusted out culvert that the guys are gonna put a new floor in. They'll have, I believe it's 185th, closed for part of the day as they set up a pump truck to get access, pump concrete down inside of that culvert. As our discussions with Billy on some of our roads, I was recently out on Peach Avenue and I thought it was a bit short of rock. And I asked Billy about it and he said, well, that's one of our farm to market roads and we don't have those on the schedule yet. And I went back and looked through our records and it actually is not a farm to market road. The farm to market route for that part of Penn Township actually runs up from 142nd to 110th on Nippa and 122nd and Oak Avenue. And there's a load limited bridge on that, a narrow bridge on that, and the north 1.5 miles is just about a half step above the level B road. So what I would like to propose, I think I've included a map there for you guys to look at, is that route highlighted in blue, taking Peach Avenue from W21 up to East Pleasant Plain. that route, one has a brand new bridge, but also it has a large number of feed operations.
Mhm.
So I think use-wise, it is more in line with the farm to market road than the existing route. The mileage is within a couple tenths of a mile. Actually, the new one's just a hair shorter, so I don't think the state would have a problem reclassifying, changing the classification, since we wouldn't be adding miles. That seems to be their kind of the criteria they look at. They don't want to give anybody any extra unless they have a really good reason. But if we're just replacing like with like and it has a better use, I think we've got a better chance of doing that. And with the number of industrial ag operations on there, I think the wear and tear would be nice to have the state helping us out on that, as opposed to coming out of our own road use funds.
Right. The switch with the state, that would negate NIPA and 122nd and Oak,
Yeah.
then is going back to us
Right.
as non-farm to market.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not so sure as we haven't been treating them that way. Just
Mhm.
because the guys, we have this map in the office. I don't know how often they look at it, and just due to the low traffic on those roads, I believe the current farm to market route has about 20 cars a day. The Peach Avenue's over 50, I think 70s, the average for most of that route. So it's a higher use road. It's gonna require more resources, and it should be at the farm to market route. So I think we've got a good argument. It's just gonna take a little while to work through the state, but if you guys
Mhm.
are on board with that, I'll
Sounds
get the
reasonable.
ball moving. Up in East Pleasant Plain last week, we discussed a property where somebody had put a trench across the county's right of way. They must listen to the supervisors meeting, or possibly Bart gave somebody a phone call, but by the time the guys went up to check it out, that had been remedied.
Repaired.
It had been remedied at
Really?
Okay.
no effort from the county.
We did run something on the radio.
So, appreciate that.
Well, that's good.
And the properties that have pastures in the ditches, I think 6 of the 7 letters we sent out came back with the receipt acknowledged, and most of those have been remedied also.
Mhm.
So we've just got one property where we had the mailing address incorrect, and we're fixing that this week, we hope. And
Okay.
Wow, good job.
well, it's Mark and Billy do most of the heavy lifting over there, taking care of that stuff. So
Mhm.
they do a good job of making me look good.
Good.
I appreciate them.
Good. Okay, discuss and consider plans for Bid City culvert.
So we've got all your signatures. Nobody dated them.
Okay,
Do we need a motion on that?
Nice
already?
catch.
yeah.
Someone want to make a motion for that?
I would make a motion to approve the plan set.
I would second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I noticed Kent Boyum is on with us from the Vedic City. Did you catch that we just approved the plans for that, Kent? Is there any comment that Vedic City would like to make on this, since we've already approved it?
No, I think I just wanted to listen. I saw it on the agenda, and I got a message from Dwayne that this was the Mitchell Creek Bridge that we refer to it as. And so we're happy that that's back in activity again. So that's,
Good.
I assume it came from the DOT, et cetera, but we're happy that's the case.
Mhm.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All righty. Let's go to the nuisance properties now, and then we'll jump back to the 5-year plan, Dwayne, okay? Because we have people from Russ on. Are we good? Are they still on? Yeah,
Yeah.
Bruce is on.
Yep.
Okay, Darren.
We have received the bid from Buddy Chittick for the cleanup out at the West Hall property in East Pleasant Plain. We received that on August 24th, and we have not made any movement on whether we want to move ahead with that or not. There was nothing wrong with the bid. I know the bid is kind of a variable number because it's based off of what the cleanup is and what actually goes on. There's a lot of unknowns when it comes to those kind of properties because we can't actually go out and look at everything on hand. But there was a complaint put into Pat McMahon from the attorney for the West Falls saying that they never received anything in writing as far as areas that they needed to clean up. And we went back through and found all of the emails based on that and the letters that were sent to them and what description that Russ had given to them to have cleaned up out there. So it was not necessarily an accurate report from his attorney to Pat. And with a little bit of follow-up, we found that that was the case, that everything was done as it should have been. And so we would need to move ahead with approval of the bid that Buddy had turned in. Anyway, it was approximately 27,500, I think. 28,500. Okay.
Now that can be adjusted if we don't have to tear down structures.
Right.
Or anything like that. It's just, when I bid that, over my past of doing this, I've gotten into problems where I was supposed to tear something down that I didn't know about. And so I learned from that and I bid it a little bit higher. And then if you guys come back and say, hey, we're not going to tear down these structures, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, I'll be more than happy to lower that bid. I just need to know from you guys that.
Right. What the board would do is just authorize what is the total on that bid. And if it comes in less, that's fine, but you cannot exceed what that total amount was if you do run into something that's more.
Yes.
But I think that would cover everything that's out there and that we should be able to get the project going here very shortly with an approval of that bid.
Bruce, do you have anything to add?
No, I would say that sums it up.
Okay. Okay,
All right, so I would make a motion to approve the bid from Buddy Chittick's company for 28,500 for the cleanup of the West Fall project in East Pleasant Plain.
okay.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
All right, thank you
Thank
for
you very
coming
much.
in. and
thank you for
taking the
coming
time.
in.
Yes.
Okay, let's go back to the 5-year, discuss and consider update to 5-year plan.
So we've been discussing Nutmeg Avenue off and on since I've started here. I think we received our report back from CMT Geotechnical Consultants. And they've come up with a mixed design for subgrade stabilization. Basically 12 inches stabilization and with 8% cement additive incorporated in to stabilize that base. And then we would look at a auto seal over the top of that to withstand the grain traffic for the Heartland Co-op.
And it's like a heavy chip Auto
Yeah,
seal
that's
you
that
were
heavy,
talking
that's a
about?
heavy chip seal.
Okay.
So my estimate on that 750,000, that includes our portion of the work, which would be adding on prior to the incorporation or the
Mhm.
subgrade stabilization to make sure that there was enough granular material there to work with, because the cores showed anywhere from 2 to 5 inches, and you want to have at least 6 to incorporate with the soil underneath to make a good uniform, strong base structure. So we've updated the 5-year plan through the TPMS website with the DOT local systems. Then also we had a existing project on Libertyville Road that had the description incorrect on it. So while I was messing around in that, I corrected the description of it. It's just more of a bookkeeping thing than
Mhm.
anything in general, but it did come across as needing to be in the resolution since it was changed.
What will you do over by the underpass on Nutmeg?
We're going to stop at the right of way.
Okay.
Well, the clearance is very low right now. It's got a height restriction on it. And if you put anything underneath it and have to add rock, it's gonna change that to make it even lower. And trucks that get under it now may not get under it in the future.
And
That's the major
No, that's why I'm
concern.
asking.
it's not our chunk of road.
No, I know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
But we will get questions.
so I would like to be able to just go right through that, but I don't anticipate that that's going to be the case.
Mhm.
So we'll just take the path of least resistance on that and go from the right of way north and the right of way south.
All righty.
There will be times that road will be closed to traffic while we're in construction, so we'll get out and notify the residents that they'll need to be out from 7 to 7, and we'll have a closed truck traffic during that. That'll be spring of 2022.
If you get something to the radio station, I'll make sure that I get out there.
We're still in the design stage, so we're a long way out from it, but
Mhm.
And there will be a lot of people happy to hear that.
Well, there will not. Is there ever anyone that even to hear about construction? I don't think there is.
Some around
On
that
that
area
road,
are
yeah.
going to be, yeah.
yeah, the nice thing about the auto seal is it is also a dust control measure, so the residents on that stretch of road, well, there aren't many of them, will get some added benefit on that.
Have you had any calls from them yet?
No, not a peep.
I'll get some calls on that in about a month.
Well, as long as they're calling you, that's fine.
Good point.
But you know, when I get a call, I call you. Okay, thanks, Dwayne. Do we need, you make a motion to approve the change?
I would make a motion to approve the change to the 5-year plan for the addition of the work on Nutmeg Avenue and the change of description for the STP swap project that's going to go on H33 32nd Street for an HMA overlay.
Okay, I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
And
Just-
we-
yeah, go ahead,
Right,
please.
yeah, we will be adding patching on that H33 project, which was not in the original.
Right,
Design.
that's because it's went another year.
No,
Yeah.
it's just, it's got a lot of bad joints on it. And in my experience, you can't just cover that stuff up with an overlay.
Yeah.
You're throwing your money away, so.
Um,
We hope to have the quantities for that here in the near future. We went out last week week before last with a loaded truck and GPS unit and located all the moving panels and failing joints. So it's going to be a pretty good portion. So that project may end up changing from an overlay to a patch with an overlay to be determined in the future, depending on how the money falls together.
Yeah. I have had one person contact me about the speed limit out there being 55 on that area. When you're coming from Libertyville, you come across the bridge, over the bypass, the speed limit is dropped on the west side of that to 45. And it's 45 from there all the way up to just about Waste Management on Libertyville Road. And their concern is why you can turn that corner and it's back to 55, and then it turns to 35 once you get up there, and whether or not that speed limit could be lowered to 45 to match the other roadway. But I know that you have to have a speed study done on it first. I think the DOT does a little bit of that, but we can modify our roadways, I think, for speed issues.
Yeah,
Do they
I'll do a little bit of digging. I know in the city of Cedar Rapids, they look at what the surrounding residential density is, as well as commercial density.
Right.
When they're looking to raise or lower speed limits.
And there was
use
a-
more of a common sense kind of.
There's a new subdivision that's out there that already has one new home constructed on it, and they have access right there by those two mobile homes, the double wide homes that are there. But the other home sits right on the roadway, the one that was just completed. So it might be something to consider at this point in time. Because again, it doesn't seem to make sense that you would have 45 mile an hour coming up to that turn and through it, but then when you turn and go north, then it would be 55. So
Yeah, it's possible that was just overlooked when the
mhm,
will be lowered.
yeah,
I'll do some digging and hopefully have an answer for you before next week.
sure. All right.
discuss and consider reappointing Adam Stafford to Civil Service Commission. That's an appointment that's up.
I know that you had said he agreed to do it more. Did we actually have anybody else in mind that would have done that?
This was put forth by the sheriff, and I don't know, Jerry, you're on if you have anything to say.
Yeah, I don't know. Jerry's on mute right now. So I don't, they may be listening. I'm not sure.
It's okay. I don't know if either of you have anybody else you're gonna put forth, but typically, you know, when a department head puts somebody forth for something like that, we'll discuss it,
Okay,
so.
all right. And this is an appointment for
So-
6 years, isn't it?
Yeah, till it's Adam Stafford be reappointed to the Civil Service Commission for a 6-year term expiring October 7th, 2027.
Okay. So I guess since it was proposed by the sheriff and the sheriff's department to reaffirm him as a member of that board, we should take that recommendation at this point and move forward with approval.
Okay.
I would like to see us, from this point, contact those folks ourselves and ask if they're interested.
Okay.
I just think it's good policy.
Any of the three of us can do that.
Yep.
I'm not sure. I mean, you can certainly do that, but it's not your appointment.
No, that's the sheriff's department's appointment.
It's just as good communication as far as I think. But I agree with you.
Okay, so is that a motion?
Yes. that
I'll
was a
second
motion.
it. Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Are you in favor?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me sign before we go ahead. Okay. Discuss and consider HR services. You both have in front of you a proposed agreement that's, I'm gonna read the highlights of it so everybody has an understanding of what this is and what it isn't. This would be an agreement entered into the first day of October if the board approves it. And it would be with Iowa Negotiation Services, INCS. The services are all inclusive and unlimited for a fixed annual fee set out herein. Employee handbook and policies, evaluate, update, rewrite, amendments, processing, safety manual, evaluate, update, rewrite, job descriptions, review, update, rewrite, employment applications, review, update, rewrite, human resources consulting, advice, information, guidance, employment practices, review, human resources audit. And after a conversation with this individual, they would start out with a human resources audit to see where we are. We know there's been a lot of law changes in the last couple of years. And I don't think any of us are an expert in that field. And I know we haven't updated the policy book, and it's been 2 years ago in December, or the handbook. Employee complaint resolution, consulting assistance processing, DOT regulations, compliance. I know there were changes in the DOT. When I talked to him, he talked about advice, policies, information, discipline and discharge advice, information, guidance, work comp claims, assistance, guidance, monitoring, resource for department heads, information, assistance, advice, employer liabilities, research, reduce, eliminate, compliance review, family medical leave, FLSA, HIPAA, training, on-site training upon request, legal advice and information provided by INCS legal counsel, no additional cost. Fixed annual fee and payment. All services will be included at a fee of $850 per month. And the fee includes the cost of phone calls and all travel and mileage expenses. The county agrees to pay the fees set forth herein, which would be billed on a quarterly basis. The first billing due within 30 days of the effective date of the agreement. Any services requested by the county that are not listed above will be billed at $50 per hour. Any services requested which INCS considers to be additional services billable separately at $50 per hour shall be identified as such and approved by the county in writing prior to INCS beginning work on those services. The county agrees to indemnify and hold harmless INCS against liabilities or claims arising out of or relating to the service agreement. County understands that the services provided in this contract service agreement are not performed by licensed attorneys and understands that INCS does not purport to provide legal advice. Duration and renewal. The agreement shall be in full force and in this case would be effective from October 1st to June 30th, so it could coincide with the fiscal year. At that point, if we determine 60 days prior to June 22nd, we don't like it, we can opt out. After that, the agreement will be automatically renewed for another 2-year period. So typically it's a 3-year agreement, but you have the first year, 60 days before June 30th of 22 to opt out if you say, hey, we try this, we don't, it's not working. Or if it works, then it continues. Unless either party provides the other a written notice of at least 60 days prior to June 30th, 22nd. I called one of the references. He had references that he had sent us. And I had a good report from that. Susie, I know you called one.
Yes, and he has not called me back. I called one of the references. He's not called me back. So I have nothing to report.
Okay, I thought you had a report from one last week.
No, I
Okay.
said, told you I left a message.
And okay, so the other thing we've been looking at is potentially doing something with the school, but they get some cost share funds to do something with another government entity. And so that's kind of where we are. So I'd like to see what the board would like to do. I think we have acknowledged, there's some things that need to be updated and done, and we don't have that expertise here.
I'm not, until we have a job description, and we do have one from Mr. Reed. I think we really need to step back and consider what the school system may or may not want to do before we go any further.
Would you like to write a job description? I've got that samples I gave both of you.
Yeah, but will the school agree with that? I think if we want to consider moving forward with the school, or at least that option, giving us some more time, we need to meet with them and actually work out a job description, if that's possible.
Right.
Then we can be in a position where we decide what we want to do. I think we just need to have more than option one.
Comments, Jerry?
Well, my comment is this, that I don't think we've actually put it out as far as asking for all different agencies to be able to propose what they have. I mean, we've talked to two. This is only the second, and I think these are people that you contacted. And rather than putting out to the public in the same way that we would advertise any other job, we haven't been doing that in this case.
Yeah, and that's because this isn't a job, it's a contract.
Well, you need to get a request for quotes for contracts, and that has to be put out on an equal basis for everyone as well. And I don't think that we've been quite doing that. I think that we've been moving ahead, or at least discussing it, and trying to get to that point, but we haven't gotten to that point. And if we were to approve this contract and somebody comes up and says, hey, you didn't do this, I would like to have had a proposal that I could have put in. I think that puts us at we put them at an unfair advantage because we haven't allowed them to try to do that.
We have the other proposal that we talked about a few months ago. from
Right.
Renee. And
Right.
so we've had some, I would like to see one of you take this on as a project. Do you want to do that?
Sure,
Okay,
sure.
Okay.
I know over the weekend, I had an individual call me because another individual had contacted that party because they had saw that we might possibly have an HR opening. So I guess I would hate to close that door before we look at all the avenues.
okay.
And I feel the same way about that. And I think we do need to talk to the current person that we have contracted with HR services. It sounds to me like this contract would be a little bit better than what we've had, because we'll have more on-site type things happen and some better on-site review of what the current law changes are and that kind of thing. But to say that we can just call them anytime and lodge a complaint or whatever happens when you talk to the HR department, even if it's just something to look through and update what we have here, I don't see that we've been getting that from that individual. I know that he does that for a lot of places. I know that he does that for some of the agencies that we have people sitting on the board with. But I think he's an extremely busy attorney that takes on a lot of high profile type cases. And so that involves a lot of his time. And it's Bob Breckenridge from over in Atumwa. And so that means there's less time for him to address some of these other things that you had just described in the contract that was proposed by this individual. And I think we need to get some answers from him as far as whether he would step up more when it comes to this kind of thing, or if he doesn't flat have time to do that.
Would you like to do that?
Yeah, I can contact.
When will
Yeah,
you both have
over
a
that.
follow-up so you can put it on the
It
agenda?
won't be next week,
No,
No, it'll be the week after.
which is
How about mid-October? This stuff always takes longer.
Yeah, that would be
18th.
fine. The 18th, October 18th, be a deadline for us, because we have a meeting on the 11th. That's not an approved county holiday, I don't believe, even though it shows on there that it is. But we'll still have the buildings open and everything's operational, and we will have a meeting then. But I think that extra week is gonna.
This
Yeah,
stuff
over
always
some
takes
times.
longer than you think because of
Right.
schedules.
So, again, I don't see that there's any real problem with Mr. Breckenridge, but I think that we need to contact him and ask him some of these specific questions about being able to update what's going on here, at least at the courthouse, when it comes to human relations
Yeah.
activities.
You might want to connect with Chauncey or Pat on that before you call him,
Okay,
because, you know, we've been going through them.
You know, Darren, I think that's a good idea, actually, because if he's been doing it, maybe tell him we'd like to do these additional things.
right,
And then
Right.
give him that opportunity.
Well, I know he
because
charges, what is it, Pat?
well, it's a
200 and some,
couple $100 an hour for whenever we call, I believe.
so it's kind of like, yeah,
Because that was approved more than 2 years ago now.
Yep.
You know, I don't think we've spent that much money on Mr. Breckenridge.
No,
No.
he's had very few calls.
Yeah.
And he was working on an as-needed
Right.
basis. He just quoted us hours, how much per hour if we were to call with any type of issue.
Mhm.
So, you know, and in this contract, it's spelled out, you know, what they will do at the initial contract fee. And then if there's any added extras, as you described, would be $50 an hour and possibly travel time in order to resolve those kind of issues. So, you know, there is a possibility that the contract could cost us more money that
but
is.
we have to prior approve anything,
Right, we do,
and mileage and travel are included.
in that $50 an hour. Okay,
No. No, it's included in the flat fee,
right, that's.
not the extra.
Right, so if it's extra and they have
It's not.
mileage, or no, if we ask for something that's beyond the scope of that contract, he's covered it at $50 an hour for that, but he didn't describe whether there was gonna be other fees that would be involved with it, as far as somebody having to come out or that kind of thing. From what you read and what I saw when I read it online.
Yeah.
I didn't print it out for the meeting this morning, but I was assuming there would be copies in the folders, and I don't know whether
I
you
think
would.
you have
given
a
those.
copy somewhere.
No, we don't. We
No, I
have,
gave you one.
we have the
Here it
meetings
is.
minutes.
Oh,
and so,
I probably have it buried.
Yeah.
No,
no,
I have one.
you-
Okay. all right. And again, I didn't print mine
Yeah.
out, so I apologize for that, but
It's okay.
there are some questions that still need to be answered before we sit here today
Right,
and approve.
but we
something.
need to have some discussion so we can move forward.
Right,
All right, make committee reports.
okay. I had a meeting with the 28E board on Friday, and there's tentative things happening with the building out there, the Shell building on
Oh,
the south side of town. There'll be more information coming out in a few days, few weeks, somewhere in there. But
Yeah.
we just got together and discussed a few items, and we're liking what we're hearing.
Hey, Darren, I do have a question. I've gotten a lot of comments about your committee of one. You know, the American Recovery.
Yeah, I know.
Do you have anything to say about that?
I'm staying here today, except for our little road trip that we're going to do that's on the agenda for 10
I'm
a.m.
working on it.
But I am working on it. I've got the documents that I finally need in order to supplement what the address is going to be and
Good.
how that works and what the federal government wants to do. We had to get a couple of billing addresses changed, one with the city and one with out here at LISCO.
Oh.
And so I have the 2 supporting documents that I need in order to make that application now.
Well,
Thank you for doing that.
I thank you for that.
It's
No.
not easy, but
I
it's
know.
done.
You know, everybody wants to know.
We also found out when we changed the address for the water service, water sewer here, that was the one address I wanted to change to City Hall to do a change of address, and I need to discuss this with the city. But that means that we had to pay a $10 disconnect and reconnect because of being a new address, even though we didn't disconnect or reconnect anything and that kind of thing. The bill came through last week, and I talked to Ray Chambers. He looked it over and said, yeah, this is for this building, but it has to deal with that address change. And so
$10.
yeah, $10. So I'll talk to Aaron Koiker about that. I've already had a little discussion with him because he and I work together with the Kiwanis group. And of course, we spend a lot of time together because of Kids Day this weekend, and we'll get that worked out. So, all right, that was.
I tried to meet with Aaron about, the task for the service agency meeting, which is this Friday, on the budget. So I just sat at home and changed it, and the bottom line's the same. It's, if you pull out that 420,000 and 911, which shouldn't be in there anyway, it's like their share is 101,000, which is kind of what's come at it from
Right, because we can't
Mark's numbers
include,
too.
yeah, we can't include those salaries that pay the employees of the
Because it's not in
communication
the
centers
contract.
because it's actually listed in the contract is that the city
Right.
will pay that.
Right,
Just as it's assumed in the contract that the county pays for the jail and all of its employees by state code.
right. And what we're doing is coming up with a budget that coincides with the 2080 that is currently in place. Okay, Susie, any,
No committee report.
okay. I didn't have anything to report on. Public comments.
I just wanted to encourage the job description that he asked for this company or this individual. If that will be provided to Bob, in other words, you guys are right, it's $200 an hour when it's when we use it. But whether or not it would be type of this I would reference as like a retainer. If we made that same offer to Bob, and that's what Darren's asking, but we don't know, but
Yeah.
that type of deal, I don't know when, and Darren's right, Bob's very, very busy both here and in other locations, so I don't know if it's even feasible for him, but
Yep.
If he
Right.
offered a retainer fee, I don't know what would come from that.
Yeah, and I don't look at this as a retainer fee. I look at this as an actual contract for
Right.
services that come through, but again, we're already using somebody. I know that we've used him very limited when it comes to things, and there are items in this contract that I think involve a little more work than what we're currently receiving from the person that we have doing our HR. And it would be a good idea to go ahead and make sure that this is something that if he wants to put in a quote for this, we could go that avenue and review it and all of that.
We'll
So-
have that discussion, next time we have it on the agenda. Any other public comments?
Thank you.
Any online public comments? No?
I have something I want to say.
Sure.
Over the weekend, maybe it was last Friday, when I had a area farmer call me and suggest that perhaps we should have a discussion about something. And since the public comments are after that discussion, maybe they might be something that we would vote on right then. Maybe we should talk about it on this Monday and the following Monday, vote on it, that would give them time for the public
Right.
comments.
And
Right.
that's what
I do
public
think
comments,
that's very,
yeah,
very good.
public
Mhm.
comments are for us to listen and not respond. We're supposed to just listen, and then if it's something one of us wants to put on the agenda for the next week
Yeah.
or following times, we can do that.
Yeah, I think this individual felt that there were several times that the public comment would have been useless because we'd already voted.
Correct.
Anyway.
And that's the structure of Robert's rules.
Yes.
That way, if, you know, because I've had that discussion, probably with Pat or somebody through the years, and that way, you know, if there's something in a public comment that one of the supervisors wants to bring up again, put it on the agenda. If it's something that you want to re-vote on, put it on that way and make the case for it. So
Mhm.
there's a process.
Right.
Again, I was just
Sharing,
sharing the complaint.
Okay.
but I think it's important for the public to understand the process, and that's for us to listen at public comments, and then if it's something we're gonna act on, we put it on the agenda for another meeting. Okay, we did nuisance properties. Anything else on there? Gotta go
No,
back to
there isn't
claims.
anything else with that, so
Do we have a motion to approve claims and approve
So
reports?
moved.
second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we got the bid. All righty.
And then we have a road tour at 10 a.m. And
Yeah,
then
we
we
can
also
go out
canvass
now with
the
Dwayne.
special school election at noon. So we'll
Yep.
be back in.
But I think
here.
Dwayne's got something to show us. So. All
Okay.
right, thank you. Road tour.
I don't know what button you hit.
Stand up to you
there.
guys.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
You guys want to go up and